Hi, everyone, and welcome to Anime Nation. Today we're talking about the most important pieces of anime ever made, the masterpiece, Neon Genesis Evangelion. If you're watching this on YouTube, give us a like and subscribe to help us and see more great content like the Marvel Mondays Initiative, the Penultimate Game Show, and my show, Anime Nation. Also, remember, if you have Amazon Prime, you have Twitch Prime. It gives you one free Twitch subscription a month. So give us that sub if you don't feel like it. If you missed out on any of this week's content, check our website, www.thepenultimateconcast.com. Check out our VODs, and even see if the schedule for the rest of the month, which is finally updated. It was for a little while. For those of you who don't know, my name is Ryan, the Anime King, the host of Anime Nation. And I got some lovely people here to talk Evangelion with. First off, we got my boy, the host of Large Popcorn and Marvel Mondays, Christian. How's it going, Christian?
Love that you said WWW because it takes me back to like the early 2000s, late 90s, which is perfect for today's Evangelion discussion.
It feels right. It feels right.
Mhm.
Second, we got Kale from Kale Rider on Twitch. How's it going, Kale?
Good. Number 1 Evangelion American fan here.
Number one. Bold. Bold.
Yes.
All right. And we just got some light housekeeping to get up to before we can move on here. Oh, we got a bunch of shows for this week. Tomorrow we got Cross Media. I believe they're doing a Netflix movie review. I'm not sure what movie. Third, we got Penultimate Game Show. It's a big one. We are going to be talking about 12 minutes and all the news coming out of Gamescom and that wonderful Xbox press conference today.
Oh no.
Oh, yeah, all of that sweet news. Plus, Bungie's showcase of the Witch Queen. And with that, we jump into the main topic of this, which is going to start. It says this is a almost a dual header here. We got a double feature somewhat, which is first off, I just want to talk about Evangelion for a little bit, and then we can get into the finale of it all. 27 years in the making, Evangelion 3.0 plus 1 Thrice Upon time. All right, and with that, let's go. General Eva Evangelion. Christian, what is your history of this show? Is it something you've recently gone into, or is this something you remember?
Yeah, dude, I was a late bloomer to being an Evangelion fan. I think when Netflix got the rights is when I like first was aware of it as a show,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't wasn't able to watch it until like I was wrapping up my master's degree, and I just needed something to like I need like a cool anime to watch, something to like decompress
Mm-hmm.
with, which I thought I was getting with Evangelion, and then like we
No.
get to the episodes 25 and 26, and it takes that turn, but like I hated it at first, and then as you go into End of Ava and into the
Mhm.
rebuilds, like I realized that I actually really love this anime.
Alright. No, that's okay, so you got in around the Netflix era.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool, cool. And Kale, what about you?
I had known about it for a long time. I never actually watched it till it came to Netflix, but, like, my friends had talked about it and, like, what do I can't there's, like, some Facebook posting where my friend was describing something and someone on there was like, "This is like, this sounds like Evangelion," and then the dude's like, "No, it's a Christian thing, not a devil thing." And I was just like just ever since then, I've been, like, it's always been in the back of my mind, but as soon as, like, when Netflix was like, "Hey, we have the rights to it, and it's coming out in, like, in a year," when they released that trailer, the first day it went up, I immediately watched the whole thing and, um, the end and was like, "Oh my god, this is one of the most beautifulest pieces of art," and ever since then, I've watched it, like, thousands of times, and just recently, I bought the fucking $300,
Hey,
Blu-ray.
me too. I also got it.
Nice.
I snagged it.
It's, it's sold out, so we're the lucky ones.
Yeah, truly. For me, Ava was something I got into, god, let's see here, freshman year. Oh god, like a decade ago. Uh, when I was a freshman in high school, I found the old DVD release of it at my local, like, throwaway bookstore and, like, media store. Um, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll buy all of this for $17."
It's cheap.
Which was oh, yeah. Back then, the DVDs collection was worth, like, $500. People just wanted the DVDs because the
Yep.
only way to watch it, legally. So I watched it, and I remember being like, Okay, I get this. I understand this. It's typical big robots. I've watched other Gynax shows. It's very similar to them, all that kind of thing. And then it just it puts you into this sense of nice, soft security with like, I've seen big robots. I've seen this. And then it just slowly breaks down everything you find comfortable within that into just a pure shallow shell, which is also beautiful, but a very different thing than what I was expecting. And uh very similar to Kale over here. I also have now seen it bunch of times, the movies, all that, and I came out of it thinking at the end of it, I remember saying that after watching the end of Ava and being, oh, this is I get this now. I get why this is held in the highest of regards in this medium. It is one of the um pillars of it, and it created and changed this whole media for back in the 90s for well, what it is today. Through the way it did its animation, to waifuism, to everything, it affected this whole industry and the way it works.
Mami
But just
Misato, the original waifu.
Masada, bold.
Bold.
Respectable, but bold. That's a respectable choice.
No, my actual waifu is Ritsuko, but that's a different discussion.
Ooh,
Underrated.
I'll give you that one.
really.
Alright.
I need
With
you.
that, now that we have a little bit of our history of Ava, which I'm glad to hear we all have different histories with it and everything, it makes more interesting of a conversation. I wanna move into the thoughts on movies as a whole versus the show. Do you prefer watching Ava as 4 movies or 24 episodes and, uh, 1 movie? Or do you see it as one whole piece of art that takes everything to make it all worth it? Christian, I wanna start with you.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly at the end. Because honestly, I see the rebuilds not as a retelling of the story, but as a sequel to the original. Both, I mean, both
Mhm,
the original series and End of
Mm.
Ava, right? Because I
mhm,
mean, we get spoilers. We'll get that into our actual discussion, but like it's suggested that those things are canon. They have happened, and then they will.
mhm,
Yeah, there's loops. Anyway,
mhm,
um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think the rebuilds would be as good without the shows, right?
mhm,
How do you feel, Callum?
Well, up until a week ago, when this thing came out, I would have said just watch the show the because especially with like part 3 in the movies, like it was this weird tangent I felt like the first movie is the first 6 episodes of Ava. So like I was like just watch that and then watch the rest of the series, but like I kind of prefer like the way I was watching it recently was I would just watch pretty much the last 3 episodes and then watch the end. But like I did prefer I still prefer the series over just the movies, but I think to get the full picture you need to watch the whole thing because the I mean spoilers the way it sort of ties everything out towards the end of this is I was like, "Oh, this is I really enjoyed going to the ending, like sticking through everything."
I'm also, there to agree with you guys. I think the best way to watch it, I do believe, though, is in order of, show into watch everything of the show, even its ending, into End of Ava, into the rebuilds. I know some people like to sneak End of Ava in at where it's canonically supposed to be, which is, like, episode 24, right after Kairu.
No, you gotta suffer
Ye
through 25 and 26.
I personally
yeah,
like 25 and 26.
I
I
mean
like
I
what
mean,
he's trying to say.
yeah, I mean, probably, like, the real way to watch it is you watch 24, then you watch the first half of the end to where the credits are in the middle of the fucking movie, and then you watch those 2 episodes, and then you finish it,
Yeah.
but, yeah, because the end of Ava, like, takes place before most of the first half at least takes place before any of the last 2 episodes even
Mhm.
happen. Because
That's
it
true.
technically is supposed to be happening within when spoilers, Shinji gets inside of the eye vagina.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, that's right.
before we go any further, this is a full spoilers episode.
Yeah.
Everything, nothing is on the table. We can talk full spoilers on everything and anything. There's
Um,
no way to talk, and we're talking Evangelion, so nothing is going to make sense in or out of context, so it's fine.
Until you watch it, you just be like, "Oh, that's what that thing was. That's what I vagina means."
Can I ask, the first time you guys saw Evangelion,
Mhm.
the TV show, did you
Yeah.
like that ending? Because it took me a long time to actually appreciate what Anno was actually trying to do.
Oh, I loved it. I loved the final episodes, and then I mean, being fortunate enough to watch in 2019 to where you can watch those final episodes, be like, "Oh, this is actually pretty beautiful," but know that that's not the finale, like that there's something else coming afterwards. Just being like, "Oh, like I see what he went through and like everything that was happening, but at least thank God it's not the ending."
For me, I was, let's say, not in a great headspace when I first watched Ava, so I very much enjoyed the last couple episodes for what the message he was trying to say and everything. Which then he completely counterspoke when he did End of Ava, because that was a very angry Ano who was pissed and wanted to watch everything burn. And with that, I think we get to the biggest topic we have today, which is the true ending of all of this. 27 years, Ano's worked on his magnum opus, which is Evangelion, and he ended it with Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.
Yep.
Basic thoughts on the movie as an ending, Christian.
Dude, I loved it. I had my issues with the rebuilds, like I'm sure a lot of people did. Like for me, like 2 and 3 specifically, got leaned too much into kind of like the action mech genre of the show. 3 was
Mhm.
just like a departure, and I kind of missed some of the like focus on trauma. Like Misato wasn't in it as much as I wanted to. Asuka was like
Mhm.
barely in it. There's Mari, who's like, who the fuck is Mari? What are you doing here? But then like you get to the actual ending, and he starts to bring in those elements again, and we start to see like the humanity in a lot of these characters. Fucking Toji's like back in it,
Yeah.
and they have this community, and you realize like how fucking beautiful this movie actually is, and like Shinji is actually growing as a person. There's character development with Gendo, and it's fucking awesome, dude. Like I almost cried about like 2 or 3 times watching it. I loved it.
For me, it was one of those things. First off, um, 2 and 3, in my opinion, are 2 is okay. I like 2. I like at least the end of 2, where the
Mm.
third impact happens. I think that's really interesting. And everyone pushing Shinji to be like, do what you want to do for yourself, save Rei if you have to, all that kind of thing. I like that. 3 is a horrible movie. I hate 3. I'm glad it's the shortest one out of them. I rewatched all of them yesterday, in order. I was like, I want to see if all right, because I didn't watch any of the rebuild movies going up to the release of 3. I just remembered them. It's like I should probably watch them all
Oh
in
yeah,
order at
I
least
didn't.
once.
I mean,
Yeah.
And no, I love this, the opening itself in this movie of it being very just slow and methodical and just an hour of peaceful character building on a farmland in this quiet, quaint village. It's very different from anything the show's ever done. It's actual character development. It is just, you get to see the world has healed, and the world, no matter what, will always try. Humanity will always try to strive and survive. And that's great to see. And I think the character that, for me, was always one I've had problems with that they fixed a lot of in Rebuild, which is Ray. In the original, I couldn't stand Ray. I hated Ray. Thought she was the worst character in the whole show. In Rebuild, that's one of the things where I'm like, you actually really improved this, is Ray as a character. And especially the doubles of Ray learning humanity through farming and stuff, I thought was super interesting and just a
mhm.
great way to have Shinji have to understand all these things, and through having to be forced to see it through childlike eyes like she was, to get him to actually be able to move forward and get up.
Mhm.
What about you, Kale? What did you think
Yeah.
of this as an ending?
Real quick on that Ray stuff, like I
Mhm.
like that Ano sort of like leaned into her being sort of motherly love throughout this whole new rebuild, where she, it was kind of weird what her position. Well, because nobody knew that Rei was supposed to be Shinji, it's based on Shinji's mom.
Mhm.
Like, just, like, basically her being that maternal love through like, as a thing through the whole thing, like, trying to get her and her father back, or Shinji and his father back together,
Yeah.
like,
Mm.
have them have a relationship is, like, I think this very beautiful thing and sort of leaning into, which is, like, a good thing that they could do in the rebuild, which is that, and then sort of her being the motivation for him to come back because her sort of sacrificing herself, and, like, they even say that, like, "Were you trying to teach Shinji loss of his mother again the way you lost, uh,
Mhm.
Yui?" And I was like, that was beautiful to me. But this ending, like, it's for me, it's like it shows how sort of Anno has matured since the end of the other series, where basically the focal point of the end was Shinji in the end of Evangelion, and he brought about the third impact. Where it's like this one is, it's very much like realizing that, like him sort of becoming the father and being the focal point is him, and sort of realizing that, like, he not only was the father figure had as much abuse and trauma and was very much like Shinji too, but, like, since he was just sort of passing on his abuse and trauma to his child, like, and not really realizing that, like, no, like, I liked being isolated and alone, and just, sort of like forcing his son to be isolated and alone. Like, I really
Mhm.
thought that was a good ending. And then other parts where it's just like finally him and Yui becoming, like, surviving together, and sort
Mhm.
of like, because at the end of Evangelion, she, like, Yui goes on to live forever in the Eva, and so
Mhm.
Gendo doesn't ever reunite with Yui. Like, his goal
No.
was in doing the
No.
human instrumentality. And finally in this one where he's just like, no, they need to be together. Like, his
Mhm.
whole trauma and pain is just based on him missing her, and, like, the fact that we he went through all this stuff just to never even see her again was kind of a, I feel like he thinks it was kind of a mistake. So I love that. And then sort of also giving all the characters a happy ending. Like, Asuka goes in her 14-year-old body,
Yeah.
gets to be with the Kensuke, and then and then even, like, giving Kaoru a much more character development needed
Mhm.
screen time, which Kaoru's, like, one of my favorite secret Eva characters because he's, like, not really around that much in both
That was something that I did appreciate
versions.
about the rebuild movies is their use of Kairu. From, like, you
Mhm,
see him from the I believe the end credits of 1
Yep.
is him waking up on the moon,
mhm, yeah,
which I loved everything with him being just in space among the stars, all that, with the, uh, what was that, Angel, that 9 he's
no, it was
with?
Eva Unit 6.
Yeah,
Yeah.
6. Yeah,
Yeah,
and all that, his usage throughout the whole thing has always been great. I think it really he got an ending that I felt was worthy. I There's not a character who didn't get an ending where I was like, "I wish you did this better." I'm glad that Asuka and Shinji were both like, "We liked each other in the past," all that, and they could let all that just go behind them, all that.
yeah, but, like, and then, like, just shedding the toxicity of that relationship, which, like, in the end of Evangelion, just there's so much, like, you can see how toxic the relationship is through Shinji's eyes, and then but he still goes back to her in the end. Like,
To choke her
it
out.
just, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's sort of like he wants to kill that relationship, but there's too much baggage there already.
Mhm,
So, like, the finally being like, it's not like, it's just like, we're like, us together is toxic, and, like, at the end we hate each other, but we should be able to live the lives we want freely away from each other.
mhm, and that's something I liked about this one is that they both like, "Yeah, this is not good, we shouldn't do this," all that, but they were able to finally clear the air on everything and could go amongst their lives.
Mhm.
Even a
Yeah.
character who I was never the biggest fan of them adding, which is Murray, got actual I understand why she was there now this entire time. I get what that character is meant to be and why, and the use of her throughout
Yeah.
the rebuild movies. Because in actually up until this one, I didn't really see a purpose for her
Mhm.
other than adding to fill in a spot in the waifu hole that they had going. Because that's what I originally
I mean,
thought was like, all right, that's what they're going to do with her. They added a new character, okay, and then I could see her kind of. She always had a past that we kind of got alluded to in the other ones, but this one finally said she is a. I'm cursed by the Avas because I'm guessing she's one of the original pilots. If I had to make a guess, because she's seen in that photo with Shinji's dad and the other Shinji's mom, dad, and got the guy who hangs out with Shinji's dad. Why can't I think of his name?
Uyutsuki.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to where I'm like, are you as old as them? Are you a clone? I'm still not sure.
Well, I think everybody except for Shinji is probably a clone who's an Eva pilot. It sounds like,
Yeah, and
at
that's
least in the
something that
rebuild.
I like that we got that with Asuka, where it showed all the Asukas just slowly fading off of that board till there's only
Yeah.
one.
The closest thing I could satisfy Mari to was
Mhm,
like akinning their like Shinji and Mari's like relationship or like grow soon to be growing relationship to be
mhm,
kind of similar to what Gendo's and Yui's was, which was Gendo was like this reclusive dude who preferred to be alone, much like Shinji does, and then Yui
mhm,
comes into Gendo's life all of a sudden, and he has to start paying attention to other people the same way,
mhm,
I don't know, Mari just kind of drops in from the sky into
mhm,
Shinji's lap and he has to confront those same issues. That's
Mhm.
was the closest reading I could do as to why Mari was in it. Um
Well, and then there's also the was it Ritsuko's mom talks about the personas of a woman where it's like as a lover, a worker, and a
mhm,
mother, and like Rei is the mother, Asuka is the worker because she's the best pilot, and then so
mhm,
like there's always that third missing one,
mhm.
which because was it Misato and Rei were sort of they were both the mother characters throughout the whole
Yeah.
series.
yeah.
So yeah, Rei tries to be the lover of Shinji, but ends up being a better mother. Asuka is also trying to be like in the original, she was sort of like she's trying to be the best in the world, but sort of fails and then becomes the lover. But in this one, she becomes the best pilot, uh, and then Mari just like talks about how much she loves the smell of Shinji throughout the whole thing, and she's very nice and affectionate towards him
Mhm,
through the whole series. Like everybody else sort of hates her, or Ray just like you can't ever like pin down the feelings of Ray because she essentially is a robot through the whole thing.
mhm. No, I think, at least in my thing, is that she was the last step in Shinji saw that needed to grow up. He grew up where he could finally have a more adult relationship with a woman,
Mhm.
and that's what I feel like her purpose was that she's there for that he can finally not be a little bitch and have an adult
A
relationship.
cuck.
He's
Yeah,
finally
pretty
happy.
much. Yeah, so he can.
Yeah.
It's his happiness now. He can have a good
Well,
relationship in a world where is it all world? Is it a world without Avas? What where do we call
uh,
the ending?
I mean, it was
Yeah.
the last shot was fucking live action, so I guess
Yeah,
so. It
yeah,
was. I love that last shot by the way because it's live action, but all the people are animated.
yeah. I'm
Yeah,
like,
People
yeah.
walking
so
under
it
the
took
bench,
me
and
a
then you see
minute.
Mari and Shinji run away. Yeah.
It took me a second where I was like, is everybody animated, but the background is a real photo? And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, that's what it is. Because I'm like, this looks whack to my eyeballs.
I mean,
Yeah, it was so uncanny valley.
if we're being real, that ending is just Ano saying like, "Fuck off, I'm done." Like this is it. This is the actual
Yeah,
ending.
No, yeah.
No more
Well,
Ava.
that and then more like because in the end he's like when he says goodbye to his mom, he's like I'm sure I'm gonna learn the same lesson over and over again, like keep getting hurt. And
mhm,
so like this is like that is just like the end is like one of many of a cycle
Mm,
apparently where
mhm,
he keeps learning the same lesson. And now this one is like he finally learned his lesson. Like he learned that I should open myself up, and in doing so, the world is back to normal, and
mhm,
he's finally been able to fall in love with somebody because he's finally learned he's finally learned what it's to be human.
I love the shot of them killing every one of the Avas, just in order down the line. It's like there are no more Avas in this world, and each unit just gets destroyed.
Oh, when they're like stabbing them, I think they're
Yeah,
stabbing
when they're
themselves,
all
right?
stabbing
Yeah,
themselves,
yeah.
I'm like, that's a great thing for just. I agree with you. It's Ano saying, I have worked tirelessly on this. I've tried to end this 2 other times, and both with different values to them is the best way to put it. The original ending is something. The end of Ava does have my favorite fight scene in all of anime, which is Asuka versus the man-made angels. That is an amazing fight scene. And this one has, I think, the my personal favorite of all the endings, which is them fighting through every single spot that was a key place in Shinji's life, and it being a vintage Godzilla style set. The
Mhm.
minute I realized it was a Power Rangers or Godzilla set, I was like, okay.
Oh, yeah. That's
Especially,
right, I forgot about that.
yeah, and it was all on a soundstage. And they'd break through
Yeah.
walls and it'd go to another room, and it's all that. And I,
Which is a thing from, one of the I don't know if it was the end or the Death and Rebirth
it,
where they started doing that stuff, and I was like, "This is awesome. They should do more of this,"
it was
but
Death and
yeah.
Rebirth.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
And
I thought
here's
that was amazing.
and, like, to your point, like, that's the thing about Evangelion is that, no matter what ending you pick as your favorite, they're all still valid in some way,
Hmm.
because that came from, like, Ano's feelings about how he felt in that time, and,
Hmm.
like, it's valid for people if that's your interpretation at that point in your life, like, that's what you take away from it, that's totally okay. But I think, him working towards, like, this more hopeful, beautiful ending about what life actually is, I think is worth that struggle of going through the show and the movies.
Hmm.
And which
Yeah.
kind of goes back to one of the, I think, my favorite moments in the movie, 3.0 plus 1.0,
Hmm.
is when, like, Shinji is, like, finally speaking again. But he's not quite himself yet, or not himself. He's not quite, like, over it. He's kind of asking, like, why? Like, I keep, fucking these things up. They, I get in Ava, I make things worse. You tell me not to get into it, I get into it, I cause a third impact. And Asuka's like, we're with you because we like you. And, like, that's, like, kinda like that switch that happens in Shinji where, like,
Hmm.
he has, like, some sort of self-acceptance. It's, like, such a beautiful scene. I love it. Oh, and then for the later to when Ray blows up, dude, I gasped and I got up out of my couch. I fucking lost it.
Oh my god, when she can't live out, when she's wasn't built to live outside Nerve,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just go. I was not prepared for that one. I was like, I don't remember what happens, but I remember it not being good. I'm pretty sure you just turn into goo, like everyone.
LCL or whatever it's called.
Mhm.
LCL, yeah. Well, and then in the end, she's just literally her bones are falling apart and her arm falls off at
Yeah.
one point.
There
Um,
was a character I never thought would ever get more than I am mean dad who wants wife back. Gendo. Gendo getting character development in the third final movie was
Insane.
amazing. I never thought Gendo would get any character development in the entirety of watching Ava. I thought he was always just going to be one of the key pushes to make Shinji a better character and all this. Not a character on himself, but more a pillar for things to happen from. And for
yeah,
him to
exactly.
the whole train sequence where you're learning about his life and seeing things through his eyes and all that, it fucking hits. It hits hard, and you're
Mhm.
like, I can't agree with what you've done, but I understand why you've done it.
He's
Like I
almost redeemed.
he is almost redeemed.
Yeah, almost.
He because he's like, oh, he essentially, like, what, like, sacrifices himself. He stays in there to let Shinji
Shinji's
change the world.
mom grabs him and then stabs through him and her.
Ye Yeah,
So he
yeah.
still wanted his plan to work, but Shinji's mom's like, "You
Well,
said you wanted us to be
I don't think that's
together."
true.
yeah.
I think
Well,
that would
no,
only
so
happen if we
Gendo's whole plan was, like, he says, like, "I'm gonna go kill a god," which is Yui from the end of
Mhm.
Evangelion, where she becomes a god. And, like, like my whole theory is like the only reason he wanted to do that again and go through all of that is because when he died, he actually missed Yui, and like there's still this lingering feeling. And when she died again in the rebuild, he's just like it was even more worse because he knows what's coming. Like he knows he's not going to be able to ever see her again. So his whole motivation was just to see her again. Like
He just wanted that one more
instead
time.
of instead of like which the show is about, everybody sort of becoming one, and like there's no need for us to be afraid of each other and like fear because we're all the same being. Where it's this one, he's just like, nah, fuck everybody. I just want to be with Yui.
Well, that's valid because I do agree that's totally Gendo's like goal
Mhm.
for sure. But I think there's like a small switch in the end when he's like going through essentially what Shinji has to go through in End of Eva and in the show, which is like, let's analyze yourself in this weird fucking trippy scene, right? And
Mhm.
where Gendo's going through it, and he actually has the same hopeful ending that like Shinji eventually has. Is he realizes that he can find happiness, like he can find Yui within
Mhm.
Shinji. Like you can be a fucking dad and love your son, and like that causes that switch for him, I think.
Yeah, like him coming back to like the moment where he left him, and then sort of walking away and being like, I thought this was the only way to redemption was to abandon my child, and being like, no, you should have been there for him. And then yeah, and also in the end of Evangelion, he is the only person who doesn't get to be part of the human instrumentality project. He's the only one who actually dies at the end.
Yeah.
So like this is the first time he's had to confront that because like in the final two episodes, it goes through Rei, Shinji, Asuka,
Mhm.
and Miss Masato. So it's sort of assumed that everybody has to go through their own trial to break down the walls and become one.
Well,
Yeah.
congratulations. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
For me, a question I have for you guys is because I couldn't figure out why was Gendo did Gendo just surpass human form, and that's
Yes,
why
that's
he okay, so he just went beyond.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
that's what the key of Nebuchadnezzar. It was he
Okay.
he
That's what that
he
did.
shed the
Serenity.
bonds of his humanity
Mhm. Cuz
by
I'm like,
putting the key of Nebuchadnezzar in him, which is a human exoskeleton, or
mhm.
not, or endocrine system. Sorry, rather.
God, that's one of my other favorite things of Ava is that it is this deep philosophical product and media, but it's also has some of the most complex and deep sci-fi lore to it
Yeah.
out of anything I've ever watched.
Lore
Where
is insane.
they fought out the systems for how these fucking robots and everything work, and down to the T to everything was all thought out.
Mhm.
And I'm like, for a show about what this is, that's very impressive. They also kept up with not just that, but also the all the scientific shit you put into this. Like AT fields and everything that goes along with the Avas and everything.
One thing I
Yeah.
wanted to bring. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kale.
Oh, no, I was just agreeing.
Yeah,
One thing I
Christopher.
wanted to bring up that I forgot to talk about was I mentioned it earlier because I think the show
Mhm,
is like mostly like a meditation on trauma in a lot of ways.
mhm,
For Anna to bring that back with Misato in the last one, with essentially being a self fulfilling prophecy, and by that I mean like her dad was not a good like a pretty shitty parent in the show,
mhm.
and
Yes.
Misato is doing the exact same thing to her own child. She has a kid now
Yeah.
in the rebuild,
Mhm,
but she's doing it to save him, but is also like kind of this mother figure to Shinji.
Well,
mhm.
y yeah, and but doing the same thing that her father did, which is he sacrificed himself to save her
Yep.
from
Yep.
Adam, and
Mhm.
then, like, sort of bringing that together because the whole thing of, like, Miss Masato's father, he was obsessed with his work, that's all he did. Like, even his mom, like, her mom hated that he worked so much, and, like, he fucking lived in Anna he lived in Anna like, they must have got, like, thinking about it, they must have got, like, divorced, and, like, fucking her dad had custody of her during the second impact, like all this weird stuff. But yeah, it's just like it's basically like her cycle is just again like how Shinji is from Gendo. It's just a continuation of this
Yep.
abuse, of this trauma that they've all sort of succeeded in, like, knowing that, like, your parents are the first reflection of yourself. So, like, those are during your building block times, like, seeing, like, that happen and stuff, seeing that happen. So, like, of course, this is what she's destined to do, is just abandon her child because her father was not a good father and her mother was not a good mother to her. She had to be on her best behavior for her mother. So, like, to bring all that back together and stuff. So it's just like that's sort of like, I guess that's sort of Ano's realization, is like it's not just that I'm also a reflection of my parents who've also fucked.
Yeah. This movie's so good.
Yeah.
It is an amazing film. It was for me one of the things that I was really impressed by, because none of the other Avon got no, not even End of or anything has fantastic pacing. They all feel always really weirdly paced.
Mhm.
This movie had immaculate pacing.
Yeah.
I thought it was the slow climb up to the crescendo was perfect for what Ava needed to have at its end. I don't think this movie would be anywhere near as good if I got just a bunch of sci-fi nonsense in the beginning of this instead of like the forum scenes and stuff where I got to build these relationships and see humanity still. If it was more like 3 where Shinji was just still locked away in a building or something.
Dude, I was so scared it was gonna be like 3 again when we're in Paris and there's like this huge
Yeah.
fight. And like it's cool, it's visually stunning, but it's
Mhm.
like, what the fuck is going on? But then to realize that they're like rebuilding humanity essentially by
Mhm.
like I don't know what their technology is. What is the ship's name? Like Gaius or something? No, Gaia's
Uh,
the
oh, Wunder.
Wunder. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
they're like,
Wunder is what they
And
call
then
it.
I don't
they've
know
been
what.
created a thing that decontaminates the entire area, the
Yeah.
plugs.
The
API.
anti-L
Yeah,
containment field.
Yeah. That held the fourth impact back, which I was very impressed by when they cut to it
Yeah.
of the flood happening of Ava pieces.
Yeah, and that thing still fucking
Yeah,
of
I'm like,
the shells of humans.
oh, it's holding. All right, that's
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
No, I was a bit worried in the beginning too, which don't get me wrong, amazing fight scene. Ripping off the Eiffel Tower to use it as a battering ram, awesome. Um,
Yeah. That
but to
scene, I can't believe that scene existed on YouTube for like 2 full years before the movie came out.
oh
Oh,
yeah.
really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it was like early 2019. They're like, we're so close to finishing, so here's the opening scene. And then because this movie was like finished, like
Mhm.
I think like in the middle of 2020 it was finished. They just
Mhm.
were
Mm,
waiting for Corona to send it out.
Well,
But
didn't
yeah,
they release it in Japan?
March.
March, that's right. I'm like, was it this year? Was it early? Was it
Yeah.
late last year or early this
Did,
year? Is it early
did they
this
get it
year?
early? Japan got it early. I thought it was a worldwide release at the same
No,
time.
Japan got it
No,
in
Japan got it
theaters
in theaters.
So
in
I'm so
March.
jealous. I wanted to see this in
Yeah.
theaters so bad.
Me too, and there's like nothing like
Mhm.
Amazon is always really good about like releasing their big movies in theaters, like except for this one,
Yep.
which
Yeah, I'm also like, why did we not get any theater? I would have loved to have seen a one night special event for this movie.
Mhm.
I was
Like,
checking the Fathom events.
mhm.
Yeah, it's
From
it's just Amazon's whole
Amazon is Amazon.
yeah.
For
Mm.
me, one
They're
thing I
bad at
also
dubbing also.
that let's get into. Did you guys watch the subbed or dubbed?
I watched all 4 in dubbed because they had to apparently they had to redub the first 3 for whatever reason.
You're insane. Absolutely not.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
went sub.
same.
Yeah.
The minute I heard they redubbed things, I was like, I'm not watching these with a different voice cast. The
Yeah,
first one
yeah,
wasn't great.
oh, I'll send you guys. I forgot to send Christian this, but I will send you
Oh,
guys
that's
the
right.
clip I recorded of Toji, who sounds like a 50-year-old man in a 14-year-old's body. Like it is, and it's this like he gets it sort of better towards the end of 2, but like it's like still the same consistency. Or I just got used to it by the end of 2, but like yeah, it's still like a 50-year-old person's voice. It's so weird because they hired him for they probably did 4 first to make sure that was all good, and then they're like, oh shit, we should We should probably redub everything else too because these dubs are inconsistent, even though the other three are really good dubs.
I was like, the other three
The
have
original ones.
immaculate dubs.
They're really like oh my god, like they got the same guy to do Gendo's voice as in the
Mhm.
original, which is sort of weird, but at least Fuyutsuki sounded old. Fuyutsuki in this sounds 25. Like it's and it sounds like he's recording it like how we are, like on a USB
Awesome.
mic in his own fucking house with bad soundproofing. Like it sounds so bad.
Sweet.
Like just especially his. Like I don't know what the fuck they did with his voice, but it sounds so bad.
That rules. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't, but that's funny.
Why
Yeah.
does Ava have to be cursed with having to be redubbed every time it gets put onto a platform?
I
Because
don't
Netflix
know.
was also like, that classic vintage dub? No, 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 no. We're redubbing
Oh,
everything as well.
yeah.
I actually like the Netflix
That's
dub.
why it got delayed. Well, Netflix did a good job because they delayed it to make it actually worth it.
Mhm.
Whereas Amazon bought the rights like sometime in March apparently and rushed it to be out now in August. So they had 5 months to do 4 movies, which
That's a
is a
lot.
lot of work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot of dubbing. Good God.
Yeah. Which is why none of it sounds good.
Yeah. Dubbing during COVID, which is even more of
I
a
mean,
struggle.
yeah, but like Funimation has done really good jobs with their dubs of like My Hero and Attack on Titan.
That's because they delay their stuff if they need the extra time, which is awesome.
Yeah.
No delay, and they use the same 5 voice actors for everything, so they
Yeah.
just have them
Except
all
for
pound out everything.
except for Sasha who had a scheduling conflict.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
But
S What else I
actually
wanna
I
touch?
don't want to spoil that. It's
No.
different
What do I want
thing.
to else I wanna touch on? Oh, with
Yeah.
this was where was I going with this? Ah, how do you guys feel about the animation of the 3.0 movies? Because I know some people, the weirder bits of when the animation gets kinda crazy, like impacts, whenever
Mm.
the impacts happen, some people are like, "It looks gorgeous," and some people are like, "This is hideous." I was curious, what do you guys think of the animation for the rebuild movies? I'll start with you, Christian.
Are we thinking like specifically like
I'm talking the CGI.
giant ray and stuff?
I'm
The
just talking the
3D.
CGI of it all.
Okay.
Because
It's weird
even
because
the
go ahead.
robots are all even the Ava's all CG.
Yeah.
Yeah. I when I first saw it, it is jarring at first. Because it's noticeable, right? Like
Mhm,
especially when even just watching it on my TV, I can tell that the animation style has changed. But it doesn't feel out of place, especially because I know it's Evangelion. Like there is always stuff that's going to be a little jarring. So I actually kind of like the intended effect that happens with it, especially with like big ass Ray who just looks uncanny as fuck. I like feeling uncomfortable in those scenes, so it ended up working for me.
Big ass Ray in the final one is an uncomfortable image to look at.
The
I'm just
eye.
like,
Unity
"Oh,
head ray.
sweet Jesus."
Yeah.
Yeah. What
This is
about
clearly some reused assets. I don't know where from, but I'm
yeah,
gonna
I'm like,
call bullshit.
where did this cursed Ray come from?"
I took a photo of that and have been sending it to my friends, and they're just like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" It's like, "What the fuck is wrong with Ano?" But
Uh, what
yeah,
about
like
you, Kale? What do you think
I
of the animation?
it's like to compare it to a more recent one that was using CG animation, like Attack on Titan, where
Hmm.
like half of the stuff that they used CG for didn't need to, but only because they needed to cut corners. So it looked weird. Like this one looks like they actually took their time. Like, and
Mhm,
you're never gonna like make it look exceptionally well when you part of your movie is in 2D and the other part is 3D animation. Like it's
mhm.
unfortunately those two don't clash well together. But that being said, I think they took time and care to make it really good. And like unfortunately, like most of the fight scenes would not work out the way they did in this one if they didn't do it. So I think it's it's really it was really blended well enough in this and to get a good vision.
I definitely have to agree with that I'm glad it's not all like that because I don't wanna see a human's face ever in that animation style, but for giant robot fighting, it lets them move so fucking fluid. They they move fantastically, especially I believe it is the beginning of 3.0 where it is, or was the beginning of 3.0 plus 3.33, where it's Murray and the Ava that has been completely destroyed, and now it's like using like a rotation system for its
Yeah.
arms. Is that the
Oh
opening
yeah,
of this movie or the
yeah.
3.33?
No, that's the opening of this one. That's the
Okay,
Paris scene.
that's the Paris fight.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Well, I'm like
yeah, because
th-
her
the
her Ava got fucked up in
mhm,
3.
the fluidity of the ability of them to like move and everything. I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Also,
and
like
the weird strings,
the weird strings. The end of
like holding everything.
3.33 when Asuka and Mari are like falling into like the near third impact, like that giant hole.
Yes.
I think looks really cool because they attach like a camera like a to
Hmm.
like the side of the Ava as it's falling, and so
Hmm.
you're getting to see like a perspective of like the Ava's body shooting at like out into like the
Yes.
thousands of, remember those like angels or whatever, like
Yeah, the man-made Avas,
yeah,
right?
there you go,
Yeah.
thank you. Like that
Yeah,
looked really cool. I love that. That was like from a long time ago, but still.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Again, I think half of the beauty of Evangelion is the journey to the end.
Absolutely.
It's
yeah,
everything concludes with this movie, not just of the rebuilds, but of the original works to the end of. Everything is referenced, everything is pulled in together. And I think one of
yeah,
the things we should talk about this movie is how this movie beautifully combines little elements of each one of those that made those amazing to make the full story. It holds still some of the anger he had during making of End of Ava, and it strives to have a better message and ending than the original Ava, which was just buck up, kid. If things will get better occasionally, because
Yeah.
yeah.
that's really
Like
what
you
I
have to
get
learn to
from like the end of the original End of Evangelion, which is just tough through it. Things will okay always get better. Where this one shows
yeah,
that you have to strive to be better. You can't just let the world
mhm,
around you move without you. You have to be a moving cog and a part of it. You can't just hide with your headphones on, hoping for the noise to go away.
Yeah,
And
I kind of like the message too that, you know, it's okay to lean on others for help. Like you're not alone.
mhm,
mhm.
I think in 3.0 plus 1.0 really tries to hammer that in, especially I think with Ray too, like reclaiming a sense of humanity in that village.
mhm.
Like it's others who are helping her become a better person as well, and it's others literally forcing Shinji to be like, dude, like we're here to help you. And I think that message
Yeah,
comes across very clear. I like it.
I also have to agree with that. I think this the use of non-main characters in this one alone, that the the minor characters, which were his friends in high school, his friends in middle school, being now having using them to show one the strength of humans as a working together, and that things are easier when you work as a group.
yeah,
The reason that village is able to survive is because it works as a group to help each other.
yeah,
And it took Shinji a lot longer than Ray to learn that one.
yeah, and also like the village showing that like not everything about the nearly third impact was a bad thing.
Mhm.
Like
Mm.
even though we all knew this was going to happen eventually, like the class rep and Toji getting together and having a beautiful family, like that was that was like like I want to say rushed, but what like they came together faster because of the nearly third impact and them having to work together and everybody having to get through this together over the next
Mhm.
14 years.
He said that, yeah, we had to do things we didn't like and all this, and we had to grow up quick,
Yeah.
but together we all became stronger.
Yeah.
which again, it just shows that Ano himself grew as a person
Mhm.
Mhm.
and all that to be
Oh yeah,
able.
that's like the biggest lesson I think of the end of this ending is like that there's like he's changed a lot since
Mhm,
the end of the first one and the end of Evangelion. Like even like there's more like he learned in between the other two where it's like the ending like to me was just like he needed to learn to love himself
mhm,
first. And then the
Right.
second one is like he's gonna learn like he has to relearn these lessons over again, but it is actually okay that he is here, like that he
mhm,
exists. And then of course this one is just like, no, you have to like AT fields, there's a use for, you know, being being afraid and putting up walls,
mhm,
but also sometimes you just have to let people inside those walls and like you have to let other people be together, which, is sort of the ending with Mari is like
mhm.
also that. And
Yeah.
also like apparently I think he found like a successful like because I'm just convinced that like he had like this like the end of Evangelion, he ended like he just got out of a horrible toxic relationship. And in this one, like from stories I've heard, he's found like a very like his wife is just like he absolutely loves his wife and like he threw her like in parts of this movie too, like animated her and their
Yes,
cat
yes, she is
apparently.
in this movie.
Yeah. So
Mhm,
like sort of like that happening too.
mhm.
Sort of I think filled the
No,
end
I
where it's like he
definitely
found somebody.
end of Ava as a I can see it as a you have just left a terrible relationship. This because that's just how it feels. The way that movie feels is how ending a shitty relationship feels.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially that kitchen scene where he flips over the table and chokes Asuka. I was
Yeah.
like, I've been there before. Like
Yeah.
we all have.
Yeah. No, it's a rough one. But for this one
Uh,
to it that's one of the other things or the beauty. It's not just the evolution of these characters throughout multiple different forms of media leading up to this. It's the evolution of a man's art. Uh
Yeah.
so he can finally say, I've concluded this. Because if I unless someone else takes the reels over this, I don't think we will ever see another piece of Evangelion media made by Anno
yeah.
again.
No,
I hope
we
not.
won't. I think we will see in like 5 to 6 years. There's no doubt we'll see something Ava
I don't
related,
see
but
anything ever happening about Anno.
he does he retain the sole rights to everything?
I don't believe he does. Well, actually, he may actually have, because when Gainax went under, he may have bought in himself the rights for the
Oh,
cheap.
okay.
It wouldn't surprise me if he owns those
Probably.
rights.
Yeah. Yeah, because if anyone else owns any rights to anything else besides him, there then you bet your ass somebody's gonna try and
Mhm.
capitalize on that. But if he is the sole owner, then probably not.
Yeah, because it's just one of those things where I I don't see him ever touching this again or anyone
No.
because other than you could remake the 26 in different animation, but that's about it. You could update the animation for it, but even then, I don't see a need to. The animation from the original Evangelion is some of my favorite of all time.
Yeah.
Oh
It's
yeah. No.
it's the best looking 90s anime.
Yeah. Yeah. The late '90s, early 2000s anime before everything went digital, just so good.
Oh, it's something that Trigun, Bebop, all those
Hmm.
that that space noir aesthetic
Oh, there
that
you go. You just answered the question.
Yes.
Netflix will do a live action adaptation of Neon Genesis Evangelion. There you go. That's what they'll do.
all right,
They probably will. I mean,
now that
Just
we've entered that terrible headspace, Christian, cast the main 3 for me in your Netflix live adaptation.
Caitlin Dever as Asuka.
Okay.
I don't know enough kid actors. Alex Wolff as Shinji.
yes.
I don't know who Ray would be.
Alright. Kale, do you have somebody who could play Ray?
That's a hard one.
Minute Baby brand.
Oh my god. It kind of works though.
It does. It does actually work, and I'm sad. I mean, no joke. If I were to make a live action Evangelion series, all the pilots would be 18, just to avoid a lot of headaches.
Yeah.
Just to include the hospital scene.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, if you were to include the hospital scene, making everybody 18 would remove 90% of why that's horrible.
Yeah.
The
It's
other
still
10% is
strong
still equally
10%.
as horrible. Yeah, it's still equal. Well, I guess more like 40%,
Yeah.
because there's actually a lot of more horrible things going on than them
I'm
being
like,
underage.
nothing about the hospital scene is good.
Yeah, I mean, it's more like removing the age restriction is us, the viewers, relieves some a little uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Like I've watched the end like at least 20 times. I've seen that scene like 3 times, and the last time that I watched it, I actually watched it and I was like, "Fuck, I forgot about this scene."
The movie begins and
Like,
like, oh damn it, we're in this room.
yeah. I was like, "Oh, that's weird." Like I completely put it, even though I had been like like I referenced that like at least like once a week, like and just rewatching it, I was like, "Oh, this is weird. He's in the hospital." Oh, that's where that scene comes from. Fuck.
I did not just come up with that scene. Damn it.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, Christian. All right. And with that, I just want to get to our closing thoughts on this. Christian, do you have any final thoughts on Evangelion?
I think we did a pretty good job of summing it up like together about what this message
Mhm.
clearly is trying to say. So I'll leave it with just I left this movie being so surprised and honestly being kind of like life affirming. Like life can be beautiful. We can find peace with ourselves and with like the relationships we make with each other. So I left Evangelion 3.0 1.0+ 1.0 being actually really happy, and it until yesterday was my number one movie of 2021. I absolutely loved it.
What beat it? I'm curious now.
I watched 9 Days last night, and it was really fucking good.
Is it really good? I
9
keep
Yeah,
hearing good things about it.
yeah.
Kale, what about you? Do you have any closing
Well,
thoughts?
I am far from done talking about Evangelion, so these are not my final thoughts in the slightest. Um, but yeah, to wrap everything up, like, uh, well, before we wrap everything up, like, I am really disappointed that they show a bunch of scenes with Kaji and like Unit 6 decapitating Lilith, and like none of that was anywhere else, and they just throw it in randomly because they're like, oh yeah, we need to explain some gaps in between this. So I would
Yeah.
very much like to see something like that, please, that explains that more, because otherwise I'm just gonna have to make up headcanon. But yeah, like it's like, I mean, if you like, if you've joined us and haven't watched it, you should watch it. But like, we spoiled the shit out of it. But still, go watch it and experience it for
I
yourself.
mean, you
Like,
don't understand a word we've said.
yeah, but like it like Ava is one of these most beautiful series, and like it begs to be talked about over and over again, and it begs to be watched over and over again because it is a continuing cycle.
A
Um,
curse.
yeah, it is a curse, and like I've watched the end like at least 5 times in the past week. So like I just like it's one of my absolute favorite series, and I just enjoy talking about it to no end and just breaking down everything. So I would it's just go watch it, and like just even what we talked about in this podcast barely scratches the surface of everything, even in 3.0+1.0. Like, yeah.
There's no way to close this down into 1 hour of Ava. I would definitely say this now. There would be more than plenty of opportunities, Kale, if you ever want to come back on to just sit down
Oh
and
yeah.
really dig into Evangelion.
Yeah.
There are two
Uh
spears of Longinus.
No, one of them is Cassius, the Spear of Hope. Um, you fucking idiot. Yeah, and also like I'm gonna like eventually someday I'm gonna start like doing a whole breakdown series of everything, and like
Mhm.
yeah, like if anybody
I
ever wants to hit me up to help break down that, like, just message me on Twitter, or my email's in my Twitter bio. So just send me an email.
and I guess my final thoughts is just I am happy I was able to go on this journey and experience all the emotions that I felt throughout the entirety of Evangelion. It is truly my favorite anime of all time, and I've seen hundreds upon hundreds of anime, but this one is the one that sticks with me. I think about it. It is my absolute favorite. Literally, I have these shelves behind me full of anime figures. The entire top shelf is nothing but Evangelion figures, from the
Nice.
Avas to Oscar statues, all that. That a Funko Pop?
Yeah, that's Unit 1.
Yeah,
It's a
Oh, that's
Unit 1
dope.
bloody Funko Pop.
yeah.
Yeah. I was like, "I
It's
gotta
like
buy this shit."
then like that
Yeah,
doesn't
it's the
look
only
like a
Funko Pop
Funko.
I've yeah, it's the only Funko Pop I've ever pre-ordered, is this one.
And then we're just that leaves us with now a small segment I like to do when I finish up with one of these, and that is my manga corner where I recommend a manga because not enough people read manga. And my manga I'm recommending this week, to go along with the vibes of Evangelion, it's going to be Kaiju number 8, which is a manga from Shonen Jump, which is about the guys who have to go clean up after a massive kaiju robot fight and what they
Oh,
have to deal
wow.
with.
That's
And
cool.
let's just say some crazy stuff happens, and there's a lot more monster fighting and giant robots in that one. And with that, we
Nice.
get to plugs. Christian, you plug in anything today?
Yeah, you can follow me at IsoChristian for all my video game discourse usually goes there and other random tweets. But you can also follow my movie takes over at my movie podcast Twitter at Large Popcorn. We just did today we released a Toy Story episode with none other than Cameron Hawkins, aka at Cam Final
Oh,
Mix,
nice.
where we talked about Spider-Man for 20 minutes, and we theorized about No Way Home. This is we recorded ahead of the trailer dropping, so it's a
Okay.
fun episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely have to give that
Well,
a
and who's
listen.
coming up next week?
Oh, that's right. Kale, you're on next week's episode with well, I'll just say with Jennifer's Body is a great
Jennifer's Body.
discussion. Yeah.
Jennifer's
Yeah.
Body. Ooh,
Comes
we're
out
getting into
next
the
week.
Yeah.
Halloween season a little early
Mhm.
this year.
What a
Mhm.
take.
Also, there's also some Ava discourse, which if you watch
That's true.
this, this is like you have to listen to them in chronological order now because my opinion has since changed since that podcast.
All right. What you got anything to plug, Kale?
Yeah, I stream a lot at twitch.tv/Kale Del Ryder, at Kale Del Ryder on all socials. And yeah, if anybody else wants to talk about Ava with me, hit me up because I'm always down to clown with Ava.
Oh, what you gonna be streaming this week?
This week,
Yeah.
tonight, and for the rest of the week is Psychonauts 1 and 2.
Ooh, great games, great games.
Yeah.
Can I just say if you don't follow on Kale on Twitter, you should because his stream schedule for the week is just is fucking Adam.
Yeah, it's just Adam
Yeah.
fucking stabbed for the chest. That's
Yeah,
right.
it was awesome.
Yeah.
Ye-
It's one of my 5 backgrounds on my computer too. I love that image so much. Even
It's
though
an
the
amazing
mask is
image.
wrong.
Classic mask is always be the best mask.
Yeah, it's the best mask.
But with that gets to me, I will be plugging my Twitter, Ryan the Line 3055. You can find me there for mostly anime hot takes and whatever else I'm up to on this wild, wild internet. And with that, we close another episode of Anime Nation. Thanks for watching.